Good morning, everybody, and I want to thank Matt McCormick and Scott Samuelson for the great work they've done and for their kindness in introducing me. You look a little bit like two mafia guys there, I got to say, with the shades, fellas. Told me not to wear it. I first got to know Scott just about a year ago when one of the great honors that I had was, as Deputy Secretary, to go to the Project Management Institute annual award ceremony. And Scott was the Federal Project Director on the NIF, the National Ignition Facility, which is an incredible story in and of itself. It's a project that had its own fair share of woes early on, as some of you may know here. But after Scott's and others' intervention, they turned it around. For 10 years, they kept it on budget, on schedule, and they created in that facility 192 laser beams that focused in on a little hall room the size of a pencil eraser and created in that small gold capsule the conditions that exist on the sun of nuclear fusion. That's the kind of person you have in a quarter century's experience here who's come to lead this project, to lead ORP, and I and the Secretary are both very grateful for his service, and I know that he is going to bring the same kind of determination to this project and the same success to this project that he brought to that project down there at Livermore National Laboratories. I know one of the people who's very pleased to see him here is our Federal Project Director here, Dale Knutson, who I see over there somewhere, who himself down at Stanford at SLAC built the largest free electron laser in the world. So what I'm telling you here is that we've got a record of people here with experience, with dedication, with passion, and it's fitting that it should be so, because there is no more important project that we're working on than the project that every one of you here is working on. And we are grateful for your service. I see also a number of my other friends over there, Frank Russo, Stacy Charbonneau. We're very grateful to them and all they do, just as we are to each and every one of you. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the incredible support that you have had and that we have had right here in the state of Washington. Governor Gregoire has been steadfast in her support. We have worked closely and cooperatively with the regulators, with the tribal partners that we have here. It's been a very productive relationship and one that we cherish. We are also very grateful for the outstanding congressional leadership that you all have here. I had a chance to talk to Senator Murray last week. We've spoken many times with Senator Cantwell in the past. They've been terrific. Your congressional delegation, Mr. Inslee, Representative Smith, Norm Dix, Doc Hastings, all of them have been terrific to work with. And not only do we welcome their oversight and do we learn from their very unique perspective from being right here on the ground with you, but we rely on them for the continued support that we need to make sure that this project gets done the way it needs to get done. I must say, it's the third time I have been here in this place since I have taken on this job. I haven't even been to my hometown 3 times since then, which my mother has asked me about a couple of times. But the reason why is precisely because it is important to us. And I want to say that one of the things that is very noteworthy and remarkable and gratifying is to see the tremendous progress that has been made here since my last visit, and to that we owe you all a great debt of gratitude, and I think it's a testimony, frankly, to the dedication that all of you who came out here on a rather hot morning to be out in the park and share these thoughts with me. There's been a lot going on lately, and it's no secret to anybody here, and Secretary Chu has asked me to come here to be with you here today to talk about a number of things, but of course very much uppermost in our mind lately for us, as it is for all of you here, is safety. I think you all know the tremendous importance that we attach to safety as an essential part of our mission. Is a cornerstone of each and every action that we take at the Department of Energy. And I want to be very clear about one thing. We do not view there as being tension between mission and safety, because safety is part of the mission. It's an integral part of the mission. That is our job. Our job is to deliver to the American people and to these communities, to clean up the area we've got here, the Central Corridor, plateau, river corridor and the central plateau, to take care of all that we've got going in the tank farms and the vid plant, and to do it safely, because that is indeed a core part of the mission. And we are very pleased to see, as we have talked to so many of you here, that there already is a strong framework for safety out here in the whole reach of this 500-plus square mile site that we have. And it must be, because we are so dispersed and the activities we have are so wide-ranging that it really is not one person's job. It's all of our jobs. I don't care if you're a Fed or if you're a contractor. All of us have to have a piece of this. We have to be owners of the safety aspect of the mission. Everyone in the whole department, from Secretary Chu through me, to our federal representatives here at ORP and the Richland office, down through our contractors, Frank Russo, down to every boot on the ground anywhere across the site, it's part of our mission, and we have to hold ourselves and one another accountable for it. As we say in our management principles, we will only succeed through teamwork and continuous improvement. So there is no room for complacency. We all have to work to foster a robust and questioning nuclear safety culture. Our success depends on identifying issues and working through them in an orderly, systematic way. Each of us, again, whether Fed or contractor, must be confident that we can raise questions, challenge assumptions, raise concerns without any fear of retribution. This is absolutely critical to our success. Confidentiality is a very important part of this. And there are some people, and this is great, who have no fear whatsoever in raising any concern in any setting. But sometimes it can be hard to do so. Sometimes it can be challenging. And we feel that what we need to do, therefore, is to make sure we have multiple avenues of reporting available to each and every one of you. You can report directly to your line management. You can report it to the Office of Environmental Management back in Washington. We have a chief for nuclear safety. We have obviously the Office of Health, Safety, and Security. Each and every one of these channels is available to each and every one of you. And this can be done anonymously. Each of these has got an email box and a hotline to make sure that anybody whatsoever who has any concern can raise these. And I can assure you, from the top on down, we will take your concerns seriously into account, and we'll work with you to address them. Now, I want to be very clear here. No one's ever going to agree on anything just automatically. We have challenging issues out here. They're technically complex, and we're going to have to work through these issues. One of our other management principles says we have to manage risk. Every human endeavor, whether you're getting in the car to go to the grocery store, going to school, going to work, visiting your family on a long plane trip, every human endeavor has got risk associated with it. What we need to do is to evaluate risks and figure out the best way, the optimal way to respond to them, to make those kinds of hard decisions that are part of our daily lives, part of our daily mission. And I want to be clear that we don't shrink from the vigorous debate that will entail. Indeed, we embrace it. It's part of the intellectual diversity and questioning attitude that will lead to our increased success. It's part of the constant effort that we must undertake if we are to succeed in delivering the responsibilities that we have been entrusted with by the American people to this great site. It's what keeps us mentally sharp, it's what keeps us alert, and it's what protects against something we have witnessed time and again as a deficient approach to safety, which is what sometimes Secretary Chu has called a check-the-box mentality, where we have seen many cases, places in the Gulf of Mexico and elsewhere, where people have gone down a list and it seemed that everything was going right, but if they had stopped, looked at the surrounding circumstances, applied their common sense, and asked a few questions, we might have saved ourselves a whole lot of trouble. I want to be clear about one thing else here, which is we have a nested, coordinated web of mechanisms in which we seek to promote this safety culture about which I am speaking. So I've already talked about the importance of line management, and I cannot overemphasize that. The core responsibility will and must remain in the line for nuclear safety. Again, right from the top of the organization back in Washington, right down to every person here, federal contractor, the line has got to have that responsibility and has to feel that sense of ownership. At the same time, however, we have the advantage of having a separate organization within the department, Health, Safety, and Security, which has a wide body of expertise, not just on one site, but across all sites. And therefore, that becomes a very important resource. They can bring best practices to bear and discuss them with the people here and all of you. And I want to be very clear also that their reporting chain does not go up through the line management that I'm speaking about. They do not report up through any undersecretary. That organization, Health, Safety, and Security, reports straight to the Secretary of Energy and to me as Deputy Secretary. And therefore, if they do see anything that's untoward, it's their obligation to report that up that chain to us directly, and believe me that they have no hesitation in doing so when they need to. And then there's a third element that I'd like to discuss as well, which is the Defense Nuclear Facilities Safety Board. They also have a very important role to play. They do very important work statutorily in design reviews, in looking at our directives, and they make recommendations to the Secretary of Energy. And I know they've been out here, and I know there have been a lot of discussions with them and about the issues about which they are addressing. And I just want to be very clear that we see that aspect as an integral part of our overall safety culture as well. And we welcome the exchanges that we have had with them as well. Secretary Chu and I had a very deep conversation with the chairman and vice chairman of the Defense Board a few weeks ago, and all of us agree on the importance of the mission and the importance on keeping safety integral to the mission. We welcome that continuing dialogue, and we do expect it to continue. So it's that combination, that coordinated, nested set of our organizational aspects and all of the various avenues that we have within the department to assure that we can continue to promote the framework that already exists here of a strong and robust safety culture. Now, there are other things that have been looked at in terms of how we can best get the job done here in terms of our environmental management responsibilities. And many of you may have seen the announcement Secretary Chu made just last week about changing the reporting relationships with the environmental management program, and I imagine that is of some interest to you here, so I'd like to speak about that for a few minutes, and then of course I'll be happy to answer questions. In the next few weeks, we are going through a transition process at the end of which the EM organization will be reporting up to the Under-Secretary of Energy for Nuclear Security. That's Tom D'Agostino, probably known to many of you here. And the fundamental reason why we are doing this is because of the desire to align the missions of the department with the core competence. Many of you may recall, after my very first visit to Hanford, I sent out a memo to every site manager, to every lab director across the whole DOE complex, because we saw how challenging the issues out here were. And in that memo, I said, we need all of you throughout the DOE complex to view the challenges technically here in this largest chemical facility perhaps in the world, most complex chemical challenges that could be imagined in terms of non-Newtonian fluids and so forth. We need you to address these issues just as if they're the toughest issues in extending the life of a W-76 warhead or building a national ignition facility because it is that important. And as we looked at it, we saw that the alignment of areas of core competence that come out of NNSA and those with EM was much closer than anything EM had with all of the other parts of the department that it had been associated with in the other Undersecretaryship of Energy, where you're dealing with carbon-carbon fibers and wind turbines and thin film photovoltaic and things of that character. And for that reason, we decided that this was the right kind of alignment to pursue because we thought we could achieve some synergies there more efficiently than if they lived sort of across the way, so to speak, in a different part of the department. And it's not terribly surprising that this alignment should exist because, of course, as everyone here knows, that EM basically is the legacy of all of the activities that defense programs, or AEC as it was known back in the day, undertook to build a deterrent that kept this nation strong throughout the Cold War. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to leverage the technical expertise in EM and that of NNSA in a way that optimizes the mission. And I want to be clear also that many of the reforms that the NNSA leadership has undertaken recently in terms of building up internally a new project management organization seem to be the kinds of activities that would be strongly reinforcing to the great work that's already being done out here on the site by your leadership here. Now I want to say a word about my good friend and colleague. I know a friend to many of you out here, Assistant Secretary for Environmental Management, Inez Trier. If you know her, you know about her passion and her dedication and her own scientific and technical knowledge that she's brought to this project. I talked to Inez just last Friday, and she has had a difficult period in her family in that her father is ailing, and I think any of us who have had the situation as I have and as she's now experiencing knows that when that kind of time in your life comes, you just have to be where you need to be in terms of your family. So Inez asked Secretary Chu if she could take a different set of responsibilities, that she would return to the career senior executive service within the department and allow her the opportunity to spend that additional time with her father. And of course, Secretary Chu and I very much respect that decision. I think it says a lot about the personal qualities of this individual that in a world that's filled with discussion of pulse jet mixers and Vado zones and deposition velocity and the like, that she has attained the star quality generally confined to the entertainment world of being known universally by her first name, Inez. And so I would like to just note that under Dr. Trier's, or should I say Inez's leadership, that EM has made unparalleled progress in advancing our cleanup operations, reducing the size of the EM footprint by 50% already, putting us on track to achieve a 70% reduction complex-wide by the end of fiscal 12, launching operations last year at 2 depleted uranium oxidation facilities, one of which I had the privilege to open out there in Ohio, the first new nuclear processing plants to be opened in more than a decade, and completing the removal of all transuranic waste for 19 DOE sites. Secretary Chu and I are deeply grateful for Inez's service to the department and to the nation, and we look forward to continuing to benefit from her wisdom and judgment on these matters for a long time to come. You know, thank you. That definitely deserves a round of applause. You know, I love coming back to this place, and it's actually the second time I'm at this very spot this morning because I had a beautiful jog right there. So when I had the fingernail described to me, I said, oh yeah, that thing looks like the Sydney Opera House. I was just by there. I love this area. It's a great community. You know, for the people of Richland and Pasco and Kennewick, every time I see the raw beauty of the river behind us and the birds and the confluence of the Snake, the Yakima, and the Columbia, every time we see the lands that are so sacred to the people of the Nez Perce, Umatilla, and Yakima nations, and for anybody who cares about, and that's most of us here, about American history and about where we've come from, to have a chance, as I have had the chance, to go out to the B reactor and to sit at a very control panel where Enrico Fermi at the B reactor was creating the materials that helped end World War II. You cannot come away without feeling a deep sense of mission, a deep sense of the importance of what we are doing, and understanding that what we are doing is not only a solemn legal obligation, although it is a solemn legal obligation, it is a moral duty. These are the communities, these are the people who stood up, who came here, who kept the nation safe throughout the Cold War, and to whom we owe the return of these critical lands in our nation from the Columbia River to the Central Plateau, to the communities that supported us all through these decades. Everything we do here, every decision we make, every action we take is dedicated to that mission. I view the job of those of us back in Washington is a job to support you here. You are the ones at the front lines. You are the boots on the ground. You are the people who are going to make this happen. And for the state, and for the community, and for the nation. We owe you the best support that we can give you. I pledge to do just that on behalf of Secretary Chu, who is deeply committed to this and who has spent an enormous amount of time on this set of challenges. So we thank you most sincerely for your incredible efforts. I thank you personally for coming out this morning to visit with me, and thank you very much.